Are you getting me? 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, there we go. All right. Now I'm switching back to primary sequence 1A5. Hello. Can you hear me now? Very good. All right. Thanks a lot for coming this evening, by the way. It was a difficult journey. I live in an area that's distant from here, and that counts for a lot. 2 years ago, I decided to start doing the things that I do now simply by making an assumption in my head that it was possible, and then I did a few things that inevitably made me and allowed me to be in an environment such as this. I say this because it is possible to say anything that you want as long as you have an idea and the apparatus to express such a thought. But what does that mean, and how do we get here? Well, 2 years' time from now, after the 2 years that I had been practicing to arrive at a situation like this, I think that we'll find many surprising and wonderful, wonderful things to explore. And so I invite you all to do exactly what you're doing now, but do it well. As the sign says, Design Indaba has been around for 7 years, and in that 7 years it has managed to achieve a huge, huge amount of things, such as example 3, the 9th thing that they offered in session 2, and obviously the infamous 12 of set 6. When we think of performance or space, do we think of performance as space? Or do we think of space in a way that enables you to perform within it? Can I do something over here and simultaneously think of where I'm going to be over here? I think it is possible, as I have just done it. I'm here because I've created an invention that took 3 years to design. I am a Senior Fellow at the Thinchins Institute, and I've been working there for 6 years after I graduated Yale. I'd like to start off by giving you an example of what this does. This machine right here contains a composite of 2 polymers. Some of you might be familiar with it. Polystyrene, which is really, really good for the environment, and a nanosludge, which incorporates digital intelligence with pre-programmed subsupposits in a non-linear fashion. These substrates can be conditioned and printed in a way that can enable you to understand things in a subtextual way, yet give an enjoyable, misogynistic feeling to your evening's events. There are a series of portholes which are located on the back of this device, in which small animals, when placed inside of this device, will not feel deprived of light. Now I'd like to show you what this machine is capable of doing. Some of you are who you are, others are people that are attempting to be as such. But in the future, that will all change. So without further ado, I'd like to switch to the device. All right, here we go. Now imagine yourself as a very small child guarding a missile silo. It's approaching noon and you're getting hungry, and this is the type of noise that your brain might create.
Isola.
So that's the first example. Growing up in Montana was very difficult. It was an interesting place. There was a lot of wilderness to explore, and you could go camping anytime that you wanted to. I remember my mother once saying to me, "Reginald, il faut pas faire les choses ici parce qu'on va manger des cornichons ce soir." And that really helped me out. I grew up, I started very small. And as I became less small, I noticed that the world around me was constantly being what it could be at times at which I was unaware of it being in a constant state of transition. This gave cause to worry, and it gave cause to scurry. And here and there we do nurry, but does one ever get blurry? If one is fast enough, one will notice that one will become blurry, but will worry, nary the two shall meet in the twixt of the night. I digress, but you start to see where I'm coming from. So that was 9 years ago, and I think that. You know, when I graduated, I had the assumption that things were going to get pretty crazy, pretty quick. And so I started this technique by which I could deal with the world, and the technique was born out of the desire to achieve a bond with technology that would enable me not to be afraid of technology, but rather integrate with it, because after all, technology is no different than anything that we could ever possibly never imagine in a context that is beyond our understanding or reach. So I created this box. This next example highlights my upbringing in Montana in a very condensed way. I know I told you a lot about that. And I'm sorry to bore you with all those details about growing up in Montana, but this story really touches my heart, and I hope that it will touch yours as well, or at least your spleen. Thanks a lot. So I recently turned gay, and because being gay is a choice, and I remember that one afternoon when I decided to do that, I registered online, and about 2 hours later, a gay integration counselor came to visit me and took me down to a really hot nightclub called the Manhole, and it was such an amazing experience because it was definitely a club, because as soon as I got into it, I immediately noticed that there was an inherent structure and a design to it, which kind of indicated that there was an isolated space that kind of denoted a certain context in which social behavior would be accepted in a way that was decided organically to support a culture that represents itself slightly differently from the billions of people on the rest of the planet. And so we danced a little. And at one point he was like, "Hey, let's I gotta show you something outside." I was like, "Okay, cool, let's go out." And so he takes me outside, and to the left of the club is this unusual looking bush. And he goes over to the bush, and I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "You can't tell anybody about what I'm going to show you at this moment." I was like, "That's fine, whatever." And he reaches into the bush, and on the interior of the bush is this hot pink leaf. And he begins to squeeze the leaf. And as he does so, to the left of the bush, inside of the brick wall, there's a pattern I didn't see that started to emerge, like a black outline. And it recessed and then moved to the side, revealing a large, dark, gaping hole with a warm breeze that was flowing from it. And then he turned and looked at me and he said, "Vi kan join it on for it in the sådan håller. Jag kan få mig." And I said, "Let's fucking do it." So I followed him down the hole, and he had this torch, and and we're moving down this passageway, and I could definitely tell because I could see like the reflection off the wall and the texture of the wall constantly changing, but I didn't notice a pattern repeating. And once we emerged into this large chamber, I was absolutely amazed by this gigantic granite wall that was before me with these huge oaken doors, and around the doors were this granite kind of like outline with these huge dragon heads that were carved out at the bottom of the doorways as well, with jewels for eyes that were refracting the light from the braziers that were inside of the cavern. And I remember he went up to one of the teeth of the dragons, and he turned the tooth, and the doors just opened. These huge doors opened, and I remember him turning to me saying, "Att jag går bak det står, jag kan ha gått rätt väg. Och det där har fått mig så här." I was like, "Yeah, let's fucking do this." And so I went into the doorway, and as you might expect, the doors closed behind me, and it was pitch black, but as my eyes adjusted, I noticed that there was a faint pulsing orb in the distance. So I decided to head towards it, because generally when you're in the dark, a point of interest is usually a place that you should go. And so I walked towards it, and I finally got to it, and it was like this weird orb on a pedestal, and it was just slowly pulsing, glowing, and I noticed that it was emitting some kind of a strange low hum, probably 60 cycles or so. And I put my hand on it, and immediately I heard this song. It was like the coagulation of years of pain and agony, condensed in a way that only Morrissey could write about. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but this was the song. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 5, 2. Okay. Well, I don't get my and I can't stop. But I do, yes I do. You got blue my go we do it every day. Cause my baby, she got some kidneys. And my baby, yeah, she's got a spleen. Oh, yes. And my baby, she got a typhoid process. She uses it very well. When I'm there, I was down the street, and I grabbed me a frozen, and I bone and a loo. Then I took me a salmon, I erected it very tall. I put some tensor strings on the pitch. I got a file in the blade. Go on, but baby, so but you can't go where you can't go. So put the thing back in the thing when the thing go. Y'all know what I'm saying? Get down low. That's what I'm saying. Come on, girls. What you gonna say? 'Cause love is like this ocean, baby. 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 'Cause I want you to know, and I got a flow, and all y'all on there, and I'm going around up to Santa Flora. Thank you very much. I have one last song to play for you this evening. How you guys doing over there? You guys doing okay? Good. Are we good? Okay. Yeah. Good. You guys doing okay over here? That's cool. How about you guys specifically in those chairs? That's great. So what I expected when I was to come here to Cape Town was a consortium of human beings that collectively decided to follow their dreams in a way that enabled them to be motivated and function as motivational indications for people to spot on the street and catch that vibe, and also inquisitively ask how they obtained that vibe, and thereby motivating them to pursue their various forms of media expression. I was wrong. But that's okay, because this is really amazing, and I'm really glad to be here. You guys are really beautiful people, and I know you guys are from all over the world, but it doesn't feel like it. And I love Sweden. So some of you also may know of my work. I generally interpret what Brian Eno says in his talks. But tonight, I felt that it was perfect. So now I had to fill in a bunch of time on my own by creating a bunch of stuff that I wasn't prepared for. I didn't bring any of my note cards. My PowerPoint wasn't working. So I feel a little bit on the spot. This is what I'd like to do for you. This is a song that's dedicated to all the people that were inspirational to me. I would like to say that every speaker was, but I have to say that every speaker was, and I know it sounds weird, but it's true. Tonight, I just want to make a quick announcement. They asked me to announce for Design Indaba this evening. They are having U2 is going to be playing at a party, which is going to be really great. Also, opening up for them is me as well, and who else? Can't remember. Okay. All right, here we go. This is called Cape Town, the place that I could have been from.
Had I been born in and raised, I would have been from. Oh, Cape Town, I love your roads, so smooth and beautiful, so wonderful, it feels like you're not even moving. Oh, Cape Town, I love your taxis, so friendly, and they go at a safe pace. Cape Town, what the hell are you doing with such a genetic advantage? I think I'm going to come away with a sore neck. Oh, the people of Cape Town.
Okay, now here's the real song. Sorry about that. All right. 1, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 8, 3, 3, 1, 1, 2, 5, 2, 61, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 3. Integer 5, 2, 1, 1, 6 over 4, 4 over 6, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 67, 1, 1,
Alright, Cape Town. It's time to feel this, you know what I'm saying? If you're feeling this, say hell yeah. Say hell yeah. Say hell motherfucking yeah. Say hell motherfucking yeah. Say hell motherfucking yeah. Say man nigga look at that. Say we nigga look at that. Say na 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 na. Say 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 say. Say 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 say. Say 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 say. Sha sha sha. Cha 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 cha. All right, let's do this right. Yeah, all right. Semi-boy, make a voice on level 95. Mike think double lung think the five, stick a date to get the case to get the gap up on to put on. Team times if don't change, don't change double law. Dance, don't fast, to put that's get up down. The bunch of house of in on sound fine, made up on the means of the fast, and I'm thinking about it, but on the fast, racist song, ching chang chong, racist song. Cape Town, I want to thank you for having me on the stage. Never you forget the wonderful people and the inspiration to change this world. Whether you are willing, or maybe not as much. Whether you are keen, or maybe not as so. I promise you a future will be inherently beautiful. I can assure you, at least as far as now. So make sure when you leave, you never discard anything that can't be reused by a child somewhere in a distant place. When you go to buy some goods and they offer you a bag for one item, refuse the bag. Make a big deal at the checkout stand, 'cause it might influence someone behind you and cause guilt to the one that's just left. A guilt economy is better than none at all. So start right now and get on the right ball. Let the phantoms of the past and the ghouls from down below never scare you into becoming your full potential. So Cape Town, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because someday I'll return and I'll bring a little bit more art. And maybe we can have a discussion about it in a small room in a cafe by the beach. We can talk about how our cousins will never be as ambitious as any of us, but their value intrinsically is the same as you and me. Lest we ever